Hello, this is a Brave Knight Mercenary spotlight on Delsahidne and her companion Luana. Delsahidne is a mouthful of a name that I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing correctly, so I'm just going to shorten it to Delsa. Delsa is a 5-star rarity support. She was known as the Iron Commander who led a united army called the Iron Unit. She's tactically brilliant, and her army was sworn to protect a prince named Lane. However, one battle, Lane was killed due to a tactical error, and ever since she began to falter and her judgment grew worse. When she was about to lose her life in a battle against Velfern realized her potential, and instead of killing her, he converted her to do his bidding. Under Velfern's control, Delsa was the one who led the attack against the Banshees and is the reason why Cecilia is the last one alive. Delsa's companion is Luana, and is another commander who serves also under Prince Lane. Luana is the self-proclaimed rival of Delsa and always wished to outdo her in military achievements. However, Delsa was just far too talented. Desperate for recognition, Luana asked Prince Lane for an opportunity to lead an important battle. Lane agreed, but this would later prove to be a grave mistake as Luana made a fatal mistake of deploying a unit in the strategically wrong spot. Oh, she's like me in Guild War. How relatable. But yeah, as a result of her blunder, Prince Lane was killed and she became a war prisoner of Velfern's. Velfern recognized Luana's desire for power and had her make a contract to become a monster. Now she lives eternal and gets to observe Delsa. This is less of a companion and more of a stalker and some kind of obsessed, crazy women. Jeez. I'll briefly go over Delsa's skills, gameplay style, and provide some of my opinions on her. I won't be going over the details of her skills, but just the general parts of it. I linked to Brave Knight Encyclopedia in the video description where you can easily read on her stats and skill values. Delsa's first skill is Iron Hammer Aura. This is the first of Delsa's unique aura with a requirement that must be met in order to activate. 7 or more allied warriors have to be deployed in order for this aura to actually kick in. This aura will increase all of your units' attack, crit rate, and crit damage. The boost in stats is based on Delsa's defense. There are 3 things to note about this skill. The requirement to activate this skill is that you need to field 7 or more warriors, but once you do, all of your units will receive this aura. This aura also ignores prohibition skills and still applies. Let me show a very specific example. In this video, Seto has 8,782 attack with 10% crit rate and 50% crit damage. Seto traditionally cannot receive buffs because of a condition in his Flame Guard. However, when I start the fight, it is shown that Seto has the aura along with an impressive 15,859 attack with 100% crit rate and 230% crit damage. Just to throw another example, Arcan's another unit that cannot receive buffs usually, but it's clear that he also received the aura as well. The third thing to note about Iron Hammer aura is that this aura automatically terminates when Delsa dies. Delsa's second skill is Cast Iron Anvil Aura. This is the second of Delsa's unique aura with the same requirement to activate as her first aura. 7 or more warriors must be deployed or no one gets this aura. Unlike Delsa's first aura, however, this one's only given to her fellow warriors and will not ignore prohibitions, so Seto cannot receive this. Cast Iron Anvil aura takes part of an ally's incoming damage and outright deletes it. At plus 15, this aura removes 99% of the damage that a unit will receive and just writes it off. For example, if a warrior with this aura is about to take 100,000 damage, it is now instead just 1,000 damage, and that 1,000 damage is still going to be further reduced by things like your unit's defense, agility, incoming damage reduction, and etc. Do note that Cast Anvil aura does not reduce the damage done by direct damage. Levia, Alec, and Valze can still ruin your units. Cast Iron Anvil aura also lasts for 36 turns. Once these 36 turns expire, Tactical Armor activates and provides a 140% defense boost to any unit that had Iron Anvil aura. Tactical Armor's defense boost will slowly dissipate over 40 turns. Tactical Armor only activates once Iron Anvil aura expires. If Delsa is preemptively killed, she will terminate Iron Anvil aura and Tactical Armor will not activate. Delsa's third skill is Masochism Aura. This is Delsa's third aura and has the same requirements as her others. 7 or more warriors must be deployed. This aura only is applied to her fellow warriors and will apply through prohibition, so Seto can receive the skill. Like all of her other auras, Masochism Aura will go away if Delsa is killed. Delsa's Masochism allows a unit to recover 10% of their max life upon receiving a normal attack. The healing occurs before normal attack. This aura combined with Cast Iron Anvil aura allows Delsa's warriors to be able to sustain quite well on their own. Delsa's Awakening skill is Debuff Immunity Bestowal. Bestowal? Delsa grants a special debuff immunity buff to all allies that she supports. When a buff unit attacks, they will gain a debuff immunity on the turn that they attack. There are a few things to note about this ability. The unit only gains debuff immunity when they attack, so they're still prone to debuffs when being attacked. This buff is also unremovable, but it is blocked by prohibition. Normal immunity bestowals generally bypass prohibitions, but this immunity is a buff that bestows debuff immunity. It's a bit confusing at first given the kind of silly way I described it, but once you get it, you get it. Delsa is a support that defines a team composition entirely on her own. Delsa has an arsenal of insanely powerful auras, but the requirement to activate them is to deploy 7 or more warriors. Including Delsa herself, you only have one slot on your team where you can flex a non-warrior unit. Fortunately for Delsa, warrior units are quite diverse, and there's a lot of them that could work as tanks, especially given Delsa's Cast Iron Anvil aura. With Delsa's Masochism aura as well, her warriors will be able to preemptively heal HP before being attacked, and will not only have some form of sustain, but that healing also allows them to survive if they were at very little health prior to being attacked. A common situation that may come up is that your units are affected by the Orochi spell that drains their life rapidly, but they can still survive attacks thanks to Masochism and Cast Iron Anvil aura. In terms of offensive buffs, Delsa's Iron Hammer aura allows her to single-handedly boost all of her allies' crit rate to nearly 100% while also increasing their attack and crit damage. It's a very solid and well-rounded aura. The main weakness in Delsa compositions is Delsa herself. If Delsa dies, the auras go away and you're left with a team of fairly flimsy warriors that are ripe to be picked off. As a result, it's absolutely crucial that you do your best to position Delsa in a safe spot. Another weakness is that Delsa units are also not debuff immune to when being attacked, so DOTs, stigmas, and other various forms of debuffs could be ways to break down her units. Delsa's incoming damage reduction also does not work against direct damage. When it comes to runes, Delsa should be equipped with shield runes as her Iron Hammer aura offensive buffs scale with her defense. I'll go over what Delsa counters. Being a support, Delsa more so paves the way for new strategies rather than trying to beat certain characters. A lot of her counters ends up being new opportunities that she grants to her allied warriors. Regardless, I'll try to go over a few notable things. Delsahidne is different from most supports in that her support stat does not matter, and the buffs are auras that activate at round start. Any shift in her stats during the fight won't affect her buff, so she's one of the few supports that perform relatively the same against Celia. One major change about Delsa is that she really makes Seto insanely better. Seto had the problem of getting completely destroyed by Mammonier, but now the tables turn considerably. Not only does Masochism heal part of the damage that Mammonier does to Seto, but the additional offensive stats on Seto allows him to shred Mammonier's first energy guard. There's a lot of changes in matchups where Delsa is considered, too many to list in fact, but the general TLDR is that your warriors hit insanely harder and are durable as hell. Lastly, Delsa's incoming damage mitigation on all of her warriors allows them to be good tanks against Asmode. I'll go over some Delsa counters now. As mentioned earlier, Delsa compositions have two main weaknesses. Direct damage still works fine against them, and DOTs and other debuffs are still viable to use. DOTs in particular are strong because Delsa's damage reductions does not apply to DOTs. If you can hit Delsa or her warriors with direct damage, then they should be gone. Alec, Levia, and Valze are the obvious candidates here. Do note that the warriors who handle direct damage well, like Jin, are still a major threat, so be careful about him. If you can hit Delsa or her warriors with DOT, then they should quickly die. Delsa herself has no immunity, so Christina, Kyria, Reen, Slang, Gunther, and Catherine can be good to take out Delsa. Also keep in mind that any warrior that has their own DOT or debuff immunity skill will obviously still not be affected by DOTs. Large AoE attacks are generally good for snagging Delsa. Even if she could reduce some damage, her HP is just generally far too low. Belfern, Celia, Nartis, Lumen, Gunther, and Susera could be large threats to Delsa compositions. Delsa's compositions are also distinct in that it's heavily countered by spells. Because Delsa compositions have to run 7 warriors, they're very limited in that they can't turn stall very well at the beginning and are very predictable in their setup. The largest problem to Delsa compositions right now is probably the Thundering Vulcan spell, which can target and stun warriors. When Thundering Vulcan activates, Delsa compositions usually lose at least 2 or 3 of their warrior turns, which is a pretty big deal given that Delsa compositions are prized in how fast they generally play. Falcon can also be used to target Delsa herself and immediately kill her, so as a result most Delsa compositions will run their final slot for a support to draw away the aggro. So some synergies with Delsa. Delsa's auras improves the offensive performance of all your units, and her Cast Iron Anvil aura and Masochism aura can turn some units to tanks even. Warriors with inherent immunities can qualify as decent tanks on their own. Susera, Siegmund, Angelica, Seto, Reen, and Dalby are special for having their own forms of debuff immunity straight off the bat. Seto is particularly special because Delsa is the only support right now that can buff him, which causes Seto's attack and counter to be a lot more potent, while the Masochism buff also helps offset any damage that he may lose due to his Flame Guard. Other tanks could be considered is Larkus, whose newfound ability to crit along with his recent rework makes him probably the best he's ever been. He could potentially pop Mamimir's first energy guard now if she should attack him. The best warrior tank is probably still Jin, whose ability to reflect direct damage makes him crucial in dealing with threats like Alec and Levia. Moving on from the defensive warriors, nearly all offensive warriors work well with Delsa. Alec, Valze, Christina, Ventana, Gunther, and the list generally goes on. An important consideration is what your final 9th team slot should be allocated to. Because of the threat of Falcon, a secondary support is likely the most sensible unit to run. Have that support go first and draw the aggro of the Falcon, because if you lose Delsa early on, then you likely lose the fight. A good choice for support is Galania, as she provides a second chance for Delsa to stay alive while also providing DOT immunity. Raphithia is also a pretty solid choice as she provides a huge range debuff cleanse. Albion's also decent to provide a Tom, which is something that Delsa compositions do not have access to unless you're a brave soul to run Ron. Vinaka is kind of redundant and not necessary, but can still be solid. Overall, you have some flexibility, but not a whole lot. Okay, so for my opinion, Delsa is an interesting support. She's similar to Sola in that she defines a team composition with her existence alone. For a while, Vinaka was often perceived as the warrior alternative for Sola, but Delsa pushes that to a new extreme. With Delsa, you're almost running nothing but warriors, whereas Vinaka allows for a bit more flexibility. The issue with Vinaka compositions is that Vinaka comps don't have reliable ways to ensure that her allies can crit, since Vinaka only boosts crit damage and attack. Delsa accounts for every offensive stat. Vinaka compositions also have some issues in sustainability because Vinaka is absorbing damage for her allies and is prone to dying depending on how much damage is being done on the field. The advantage that Vinaka has over Delsa is that Vinaka does not limit you as hard as Delsa does. Vinaka could be ran with almost any variable amount of warriors, but with Delsa you have to run 7 warriors. If you don't, Delsa nearly provides 0 value, and you're arguably better off running a 4-star support or even a 3-star support for that matter. The main issue with Delsa forms is the spell system itself. As mentioned earlier, Vulcan causes huge problems with Delsa forms and slows them down considerably. Future spells can appear that affects a class of units, and if anything targets or hits warriors, Delsa forms are likely to suffer. The main problem with Delsa forms is that they have no flexibility in regards to its team structure, so they can't maneuver well against spells. When Delsa forms do get to shine, however, then they absolutely shine. Delsa warriors hit hard and are highly resistant. The fast-paced nature of the comps allow you to climb quickly in Arena or World Arena even if other compositions may offer better win rates. Outside of Arena, Delsa is good in world boss like Ogdode and Dagdarin. She's also really good at circumventing some evil castle mechanics and other PvE puzzles with her damage reduction. Last but not least, Delsa is fantastic in Guild War attacks and is a really good option to deal with Lettercraft forms, as her highly aggressive and fast-paced style is really useful in that format. Delsa, however, is not very good in Guild War defenses because she just needs to be targeted for the formation to crumble. For similar reasons, it's also really hard to utilize her effectively in Underground Arena. So the question begs, should you invest in Delsahidne? And my answer leans towards yes. Delsa has a lot of problems, but she also sets up in a way where she's very prone to change in the future. Any warrior that is reworked or released in the future can change the viability of Delsa forms. Hell, if they release a spell that allows their units to have full-on debuff immunity against other spells, then Delsa forms will also be a lot better. The point I'm making here is that Delsa's potential is huge and the viability of her compositions is very sensitive to change. Delsa as it is right now, however, is still really good, but she's not a cheap unit. You need good warriors to make her work, and you need a very colorful roster of warriors. Delsa could utilize some 4-star warriors as well, but the point being is that you need a very diverse set of warriors, and if you don't have that, then investing in Delsa is a bad idea. Another thing to note is that even though Delsa compositions are kind of hard countered by some spells right now, as more compositions appear in the game, Delsa compositions may get better and may be able to thrive better once countering it is no longer worth it. So all in all, for regular or World Arena, she's pretty solid. However, if you're focused on Guild Wars, then Delsa is a fantastic unit and she saves a lot of time, which is valuable against Lettercraft defense forms. One final concern with investing in Delsa is that her plus 15 spike is very important. Plus 15 is where Cast Iron Anvil aura can erase 99% of her team's incoming damage taken. The difference between 99% and her 75% at plus 14 is really big. Your warriors can still be blown up by some units' damage output even if they only receive 20% of their intended damage taken, so 99% is the really consistent way to stay safe. Otherwise, Delsa is mostly decent at most skill levels. Overall, I really like the direction that they took with Delsa as a support that has a lot of potential down the future. I also like her aesthetics as well. Delsa herself has a pretty noble knight look, but I like the monochrome color scheme of her armor. Her companion Luana has a soft spot to me because I'm a simple man. The military garb, backed by the big titties, is enough to win me over. But I think it's the hat that I'm really sold by. Anyways, thanks for watching my Delsahidne Mercenary Spotlight. Stay tuned for more. Thank you.